Okay, Luke, we're back. We're end of the season. The Unthinkable's happened, and a satellite rider has won the MotoGP World Championship. So, I mean, straight off the bat, uh, did Pecco have a better season than Martin?
Mm, okay.
It's a weird. I know it's a weird concept, but he smashed him, didn't he?
Yeah, in terms of Pecco himself actually put it very well, so I'm gonna revert to what he sort of said here. It was a season of two sides, pretty much. There was the strength, which was Pecco, where he won how many Grand Prix did he win in the end? 10, 11? And then there was the side of consistency, which was Martin, who only won 3 Grand Prix, but absolutely smashed it in terms of just finishing second, third, fourth when he needed to, compared to Pecco, who just crashed a lot when he didn't need to.
Yeah. And I guess that is the big thing, isn't it? Like, how can you possibly win more than 50% of the Grand Prix? Um, and Just it's one of those ones because, and I've spoken about a lot throughout the year, sprint races, this and that. But in the end, I mean, the sprint races kind of have made a difference, but in a way they haven't. Because I was shocked when I found this out because I recorded a video maybe after like maybe round 18 or something, and I said, "Oh, what's Pecco won 2 or 3 sprints? He's won 7. He's won the same amount of sprints as Martin. He's won 8 more Grand Prix, something like that." He's won
Yeah.
11. Martin's won 3, I think, or whatever. So the difference actually has been made in just, like you said, the consistency. It's literally just Martin was like, "Oh, just come second every week," and Pecco's the old win it or bin it in every sense of the word, or every sense of the phrase. So, I mean, we can go into I'm sure we're gonna go into sprint races, but just on that, I mean, it's not the first time ever we've seen a consistent rider overcome sort of that kind of win it or die trying. Um, you think of Mir, even Nicky Hayden to a degree. That season he only won 2 races, I think. But even then, Rossi didn't go and win 10. He won maybe like 5, 6. So, I mean,
Yeah.
is it like is it like one of those things like, "Oh, no, we've gotta rethink the system here," or is it just like, it's if it happens, it happens. Sometimes a guy's gonna win 10 races and still not win the championship.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen. Um, it's just very rare that it does. I think we saw I can't remember when the stat came about, but it might have been after Malaysia, where Pecco had joined this list of Rossi, Marquez, Agostini, Doohan of more than 10 or 10 race wins in a single season. And he's probably the only one out of that list to not win the championship in the year that they won 10 Grand Prix, because Rossi did it. Marquez has done it, I think, twice. Doohan did it a lot, and Agostini was rare because there was less races. I think Stoner was the other one as well. But it was it was shocking because I thought, excuse me, I thought at the start of the season it was Pecco's. I didn't see Ducati allowing Martin to fight for the title like they did, and I guess that's the other big talking point. The the fact that they actually did sit there and were like, "It's fair game. If you're going to throw this away, Packer, you've thrown it away. We'll let the satellite team have it."
Yeah. I mean, like, fair play to him in that sense. It is one of those things because do you there is a lot being said obviously with the independent rider, like, team thing winning it. Is it overstated a little bit how impressive it is? Because at the end of the day, it's the same bike? Or is it justified because you don't have that complete kind of, I don't know, how much of a difference does it make? If you have the exact same bike as anyone else, but you've got a different set of engineers and mechanics, is Martin really getting that much less support than Pecco? Or, I mean, I'm not on the inside. I don't know these things. Um, my understanding of it, just coming from a layman from the outside, is like, well, it's the same bike, isn't it? You're just riding a bike. So if you're as quick as the other guy on the same bike, you're as quick as him. does it really matter who your engineers or your mechanics are? Maybe it matters a lot because we've not seen it happen in the past. So, am I underselling the importance of it?
Well, I think it's very important for Pramac as a team, especially. Especially when they go to Yamaha, that's a whole different kind of worms for them. Um, but I don't know how to say this without seeming offensive towards Pramac, but I feel like when you think of the Ducati Lenovo team, you think of what were Repsol Honda, um, what were like Fiat Yamaha, for example. They were the dominant team and they had the best of the best mechanics in that group. And I feel like Ducati would have kept sort of the same as that. They've had, they've got Gigi Stallini and they've got Davide Pardozzi in their garage. Nothing away from Gino Borsoi in Pramac, but when you think of them in the last couple of years, you think of them, were winning the title no matter what. I think Martin was, he was on the best of the best bike, let's be honest here, but he didn't have the same level of manpower around him that Pecco did. He wouldn't have had the same access as Pecco's had being in the factory team, and that's ultimately why Martin's said, I've won this title and now I'm going to Aprilia because they're going to value me for what I've done compared to what Ducati wouldn't.
Yeah, and I guess that
Hmm.
kind of takes me to I've asked you to write down sort of 3 or 4 things you wanna talk about. I don't know what they are yet, um, but that takes me to one of the things I've written down, which is, um, Jorge and Bastianini as well. Uh, their moves away from Ducati now. So you mentioned, Aprilia willing to offer Martin the big seat. He's the boss. He's the new captain, you know, over at Aprilia. Um, even if even if you how can I put this? You you can let's say your ego cops a hit. They've taken Mark ahead of you. You're like, that's it. I mean, because that day he walked down to Aprilia and signed the deal, didn't he? Like he was like, I'm out. See you later. Uh, would you still consider that maybe we don't know what the bike's going to be like next season? Aprilia could be amazing. KTM could be amazing. We don't know. But on current evidence, have either one of those two guys made a mistake? Because I would
Um,
assume if either one of them had chosen to stay, they'd be given a factory bike, maybe at Grassini or VR, right?
that's the thing with Ducati. I don't know why Pramac left. That's something I'm not sure on. I don't know if Pramac have gone because they were losing their sort of riders. Because that whole thing of Ducati losing 2 seats really impacted them. And Ducati have lost 3 of their riders from last year because Bez is going to Aprilia as well. But I don't think Martin's made a mistake because it's ultimately the thing of where would he have gone? Because VR46 probably wouldn't have had him because they were always dead set on Morbidelli. And if they weren't going to get Morbidelli, they would have got Bezzecchi. So that just seems like an option wasn't there. And would you really want to take the jump down to Grassini? Not putting anything against them. I mean, we saw what Mark did on their 2023 Ducatis this year, but Mark's a different rider completely. Um, so I think he's made the right decision, but in my mind, but I fear that he might end up like Luca Marini, where you've gone for this decision of I want to make my own story. I want to be a factory rider somewhere. And ultimately, you've made the jump down to a lesser bike. I mean, it's the only other bike that won a Grand Prix this season in America with Vinales. But is it going to be able to compete with a Ducati every race? Probably not. It's probably going to take a year or 2 for him to get used to it because it's going to be very different to his Ducati. From watching the test of him on it, it didn't look as stable as his Ducati, especially on corner exit. Um, And I think Bez is going to find the same, but Bez did not like the 23 Ducati, and Bastianini needed to get away from Ducati. It's very obvious that he underperformed in his 2 years in the factory team. It's plain and simple. He did, and yeah, he was hampered by injuries last season, but it's a year on there. You'd expect more from him still, and I just feel like he was almost going in circles at Ducati with Bastianini. I feel like he'd have 1 week where he was great, and then next week where he was not as good. And going into Tech 3, where I haven't had a chance to read his comments yet from the test. I don't know if he can comment because Ducati on track. But from what Vinales has already said, he likes the atmosphere in Tech 3. He finds it like a family, and that's what he needs. So I feel like Bastianini might have made a good idea by going to Tech 3. The bike as well might not be that, but it might be the atmosphere that he needs to get back to where he was at Grassini, which was also a family atmosphere. So I think both of them have made the right move for what they need, but the bike for both of them just may not be at that point to fight for championships next year.
Mm. And so, I mean that, yeah, I tend to agree. I tend to agree. You know, is it worth getting out? But it's just like, is it one of those things where you're playing like long term versus short term? You know, so short term, Martin's far more likely to challenge for the title again next season if he just stays on a satellite, up to date Ducati than perhaps what he would be moving now. Similar for Bastianini. But then, you know, maybe long term, you're in a project then, if they can sort it out. You know, can Ducati
Who can
dominate
lead it as
forever?
well? Yeah.
No, no one ever does. Exactly. So, and especially with Martin more so because he's going into the factory and Bez. Bez is another one who I think has potential to surprise us next season. But I mean, he's had a bit of an off year, but I think he can surprise us next season going into that team. But yeah, and then I guess that leads us into, you know, have either of them made a mistake? Maybe not, from long term goals perspective. I mean, we'll get to your points that are. I just get more questions each time we discuss stuff. So, Ducati, have they made a mistake? I have my own thoughts on this. Like, who should they take? Was Mark the right decision?
I'm split down the middle.
Knowing you've got to, because you know, as soon as you pick one of these three, the other two are going.
Mm.
A lot of people had it in their head that it was like, you know, well, they should have just put Martine there and then found a factory bike for Mark, you know, and then no, whichever one you went with, the other two were going. You can't keep even two of them. That's just the way it was. So in that sense, is it the right
Yeah.
call?
Yeah. I mean, Ducati have limited resources. Let's be honest. They've been stretched thin these last couple of years by running 8 bikes. They've only they've dropped the amount of factory bikes that they had from the year before to this year because they lost the factory bike from VR46 that Marini was on. So you could clearly tell that they were more focusing on their factory team. Um, the signing Mark to the factory team, I wouldn't say on the fence, but I think one day I swerved to, yeah, it was the correct decision, and then the next day I'm like, why? Uh, I don't think I have made up my mind personally on it yet, but from looking at both sides of it, and I think this is the best way of doing it, Mark could bring you 2 world titles in the next 2 years, and that is something Ducati want, because they've seen this thing of Martin leaving, and they've said, I think Tardozzi even came out and said, but in the history books, it will say Ducati next to Martin. It won't say Aprilia, even though he's left. So Mark could win these 2 titles. He could cause an absolute shambles in the factory garage, but Ducati will still have 2 more world titles to their name. But then there's the other side of it. You let Mark go. Mark goes to Aprilia. Mark goes to KTM, where, he goes to one of these bikes. Mark gets on it and he does the same thing as he did when he got on a Ducati. Because Mark is, and, sorry, Marquez haters, Mark is brilliant. And it's just a fact at this point that Mark Marquez, I'll hold my hand up, I always thought Mark needed Honda. I didn't think Mark would be able to do it on a different bike. And I know he arguably went to the best bike and he still produced, but I always thought, is he a one-trick pony? Could he do the, could he do it on another manufacturer? And he did. So I think it's a good decision. I think it's a bad decision because you've let 3 of your best and younger riders walk away from Mark because Mark's getting older. I don't know his exact age off the top of my head. I can quickly look if I can find his name. Mark Marquez is what, 33, 34? And the others are in their he's 31. Oh,
Is he
I
that
aged
old?
him. He's 31. I aged him.
Yeah.
He's but he's getting towards the latter end of his career. So that's the other side that I kind of disagree with. So do you see what I mean? Where I'm in the middle. I like the
Yeah.
idea because they could win 2
I'm
titles,
exactly the same.
but I don't like the idea because they've lost 3 young, very talented riders. So, but you risk losing 2 titles. So I'm in a circle.
Here's the thing for me. I think Mark is probably more likely to hurt you of the 3 if you let him go. Because he could hurt you on a shit Honda. So he can definitely hurt you on an okay Aprilia or KTM. And something in my instincts think it would have been KTM, just because I think they would have thrown more money at him. But anyway, uh, I with Martin, say like you said, 2-3 years down the line, maybe Mark calls it a day, whatever, goes and wins a couple of titles. If Ducati's still the best bike, right? If they're still the strongest package, and they go to Martin like, "Look, we'd love to take you back to replace Mark." He's doing it. He's not gonna be like, "Well, you fucked me over that time." He's doing it. He wants to win. If that's the best bike, he'll go on it and win. I just can't see him saying no to that. Say he struggles at Aprilia for a couple of years, or even he's okay, but he just can't take that last step. Maybe he wins 1 or 2 races a year, but he just can't keep up with the Dukes. If Ducati come around to him again and go, "Look, we'd love to take you back, factory team, full everything, bit of good bit of money in your pocket," I think he'd be like, "Yeah." So I think you still have the chance to take him back anyway. I don't think he's gonna sit there and go, "I'd rather just lose forever. Sorry, mate. Yeah, I'd rather you guys just beat me up," you know? So, in that sense, I feel like there's really no big loss for Ducati here because Mark's a very good chance to go on and win the world championship next year. Huge chance. Uh, and let's say Martin was the same. So either you win with or Bagnaia, he'll be there and abouts and all that. So I still think they're in box seat to win the next 2 or 3, maybe until the rules change. And then after that, it's like if they get it right again, you got to be able to convince any rider to come across because every rider wants to be on the best bike. So in that sense, I'm like, not really a mistake. In the sense, like you said, I'm a bit the same as you. You've let your world champion go, a young guy in his mid-20s, peak of his career, peak of his abilities, and you've let him go somewhere else. Now, is Martin good enough to be one of those, like a Fabio, you can get on a lesser bike and deliver you a world championship? He might be. He's very fast. Uh, Whether he is, I mean, I don't know. We're about to find out. Um, so there's still a little potential there that he can do that too, but I think Mark's going to be too strong generally. I mean, we'll go into this when we do our predictions at the start of next season, but I think he's going to be super, super strong. Um, but yeah, I am a bit on the fence like yourself. It's both a mistake and not a mistake, but I think if this makes sense, it's less not a mistake. If you follow me. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I think they can get away with this a lot easier than Mark going somewhere else and doing the damage. So, yeah. So anyway, Luke, I've asked you to come up with a few things you want to talk about, hot topics, whatever it is, a rider maybe. What's your first one?
Well, we sort of alluded to it before we started recording, and I like talking about it with the bit of rivalry there is with the British and Australian riders. It's slightly lesser for um, MotoGP. Well, I guess there's Jack. So there's that topic. I kind of want to speak about him because I guess what I want to ask you: do you think, staying with Jack, his move to Prima Pramac Yamaha is going to be successful. It's another manufacturer for him. What is this? His fourth manufacturer in MotoGP now? Um, what are your
Yeah,
thoughts on Cinema?
been around. I'm glad he's still around. Um, do I think it'll be successful? I mean, like in what sense? It's probably not. If you're just looking at it from like what's going to happen by the end of the, probably not. I can't see the results being there, but the same way that I can't see him being there for if you put almost anyone on a satellite Yamaha team. If it's not competitive, it's not competitive. The only guy that's going to be competitive is Fabio sometimes, and Rins will be okay here and there because he's good like that. I think Oliveira and Miller are just going to struggle. Um, in saying that, he gives it a red hot go no matter what. He just randomly can just produce good laps sometimes. He might have the odd qualifying where he puts it somewhere near the front. And and I think he'll be it the immeasurables will be, is it going to be a success in the sense that will Yamaha look at him down the line and go, that really helped having a guy like that there for that season, and maybe maybe he gets another season. Maybe he goes on to be a test rider after that. We don't know, but will they look down the line and look at a guy like Miller and Miguel as well and go, yeah, that we probably needed that more than chucking a rookie on or something, just to get us another 12 months of development. We're trying to build a V4, all this stuff. It just helped having a guy I've been on a Ducati when it was the best. I've been on KTM when it was pretty quick. I've seen how everyone operates. Here's what we're not doing, that kind of stuff. So I mean, you don't know. You're not on the inside. You don't know how valuable a guy like Jack is behind the scenes. My instinct tells me he's pretty decent with his feedback because everybody keeps trying to sign him. And when I say that, I mean he keeps getting a go, right? To manufacturers that are like, we need to build something here. We're trying to develop the bike. They keep turning to him. You know, in fairness, it's after another place is sometimes letting him go. But they're like, well, there's a guy who needs a ride and we need a rider and we can use that. So my instinct tells me that he's pretty decent on his feedback. He helps a lot. He's probably good for atmosphere around, when things aren't going well, he can probably keep everybody motivated because he's a good character to have around. He's a nice lad. Uh, he's probably friends with all the guys in the box, you know what I mean? So from that aspect, maybe they will look back, even if he doesn't have a successful season on results, they may look back and go, yeah, that we needed that for 12 months. That was really helpful. And then later down the line, it might come out that, it was a successful partnership because he helped develop the bike. But results wise, if you're looking on track only, do I think it's going to be a success? Probably not. But again, it depends on what is successful results for a second Yamaha team. Like, what does that look like? You know? I don't know, but what do you think? This is your topic. I'm assuming you've got some feelings on it.
He's the way I see it, he's got a 1-year deal. I think there's an option for a second. I'm not sure on that part. I think that got mentioned in commentary over the weekend during the test.
Would the option be on the option would be on Yamaha's end
Yeah, probably
to take
Yamaha's
up
decision.
not on,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, but the way I see it, he's getting a factory bike because it's going to be an extension of the factory team. Is the way they like to say it. Same with Tech 3 next year as well. Um, so I think everything's lining up for Jack to do okay, other than the bike. He likes the team. He's been there
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
He was successful at Pramac, like I say, on a Ducati. But the way I see it as well, Jack is a good serviceman to a manufacturer. Pecco still talks highly about his time being teammates with Jack and the factory Ducati team. And that was 2 years ago now. And he still says he was one of his favourite teammates. He was really helpful. And there was, I don't know what press conference it was, but Pecco was getting questioned quite hardly about something that happened off a racetrack. And Jack, I seem to remember, just sort of stood up and was like, he's apologise for what happened off the track, leave it there sort of thing. So I think Jack, as a character and as someone who can deliver feedback, who will be straight up and honest with a manufacturer, is the guy to have. Because you don't want someone that will walk in and be a people pleaser and like, "Oh, yeah, the bike's great, yeah," and it's really terrible. And I think that's where Jack will probably excel in this Yamaha team because he knows the people and he won't be afraid to say it how it is. It's just whether Yamaha listen is always the big thing with Yamaha. I think we've probably spoken about it before. Going back to the Rossi and Vinales
Yeah.
days, they didn't listen. They publicly apologized because of how bad the bike was. And I feel like we're getting back to that position again, where we're getting close to another public apology. It's about time. They last won in 2021. Uh, when they apologized to Rossi and Vinales, what was that, 2018, 2019? They won then in 2015.
Mm.
Yeah, we're about time for another public apology from Yamaha. So I
Yep.
think the ball lies in their court now. Will they listen to their riders? They've got Fernandez as a test rider as well. Will they listen? Is the big question for them.
Yeah. And I think we've spoken about it before, like you said. It is part of, like, that Japanese thing, isn't it? Where it's, the riders will be like, "Well, we needed to do this." I'm like, "Well, no, according to us, the way we've
Fine.
studied it, if you just do this, you win." It's like,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't translate that way on the track, mate. Like, so yeah, I do agree with you. I think Jack is the right kind of character to have around. Definitely, definitely. Um, so no British riders to talk about.
No, MotoGP. No, still not. No.
Oh well, one day,
One day.
maybe.
One day. Jake, yeah, he's going to Mark VDS. That's where Sam found success. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. To be fair, I can see him having a good season next season.
Yeah.
I really can.
Bosco Scuro, yeah. Well, yeah, Bosco
Yeah,
Scuro chassis.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it'll be the lead rider because Salach is a teammate again. So yeah, I think if everything, he's another rider like Jack. I think if everything clicks, it's great. And I
mm,
like Jake. Don't get me wrong. I've liked him since British Super Bikes. Um, yeah, I just hope it clicks because when he wins races, it's good. When he won in Silverstone this year, it was great. I wasn't there, sadly,
yeah,
but watching it, it was great. Um, so hopefully we can have some more, and I'm sure you're hopeful for Jack and the other Australians in the paddock as well.
yeah. Like we did mention a little bit before we started recording. Promising seasons for the Aussies there. Promising.
Yeah,
Nothing amazing. Kelso was very good, I thought, but again, there was
yeah.
doubts about certain races where he left stuff on the table. But by the end of the season, I think he started to look a bit more like you want him to look in those situations. He really was scrapping, really, and that's my only criticism with him is the guy's quick enough, but gets beat up a little bit on track. And now, I mean, he lost out in a few of these, mostly not his fault. So, but in terms of getting your elbows out and having to turf a guy out if you need to, he started doing it a bit more, and I was really happy with this. It was great. He got himself a pole position. Fair play. The guy's rapid. The guy's rapid. All the ingredients are there. It just needs that last little dash of seasoning there. So, but then, yeah, good seasons for Ralston, Center Aegis in Moto 2. I thought they were both decent, decent
Sonny
starts,
got
something to
podium.
build on. You've got to have the
Sonny got
foundations there,
so Sonny got podium at Phillip Island, didn't he? As well, I think as well.
I
So
believe. So, yes.
yeah, so yeah,
You think
good
I'd
luck.
remember
Good.
that pretty vividly, but yeah, no, it was,
I
yes,
mean,
he
yeah,
did.
both rookies as well.
So,
So
mm,
yeah, it's more
yeah,
promising
no,
for you lot than us. So
and he was in that fight with, he was in the fight for, Rookie of the Year until the final round, which he had a good final round. He dropped away right at the end of that race quite a bit,
eh,
but it's a really good weekend. He was up near the front a lot of it, and during the race, he battled near the front for quite a while. So I do think he's one of those guys that will build on a season. He looks like a good talent. He looks like a good talent. But you've got to understand, Luke, it's not like for us, it's not like with the British, right? We just like, you guys are just like, we're in a barren sp we don't have anyone around. There's always one Aussie that delivers. There's always one. We might have a gap of a few years between one retiring, another one coming in, but we always produce someone. Someone comes
Mm,
through, and then all of a sudden it clicks for 'em. I don't know if it's a part of the culture that the Aussies have that the British don't. I don't know. There's a grit there that someone just goes, "Well, there's no rider on the grid." It's same with Formula 1, there's no driver on the grid. Someone's just like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'll be quick. Whatever." We just always get someone coming through. So I'm looking forward to seeing who it is. It might not even be in the paddock yet, that kid, but he's coming, don't worry.
I'm
I
hopeful for
I do
Scott
have
Ogden next
hopes
year.
for, like, ages and stuff.
I'm hopeful for
Team
Scott.
move,
He's
I think it'll be good
team move
for him.
onto a KTM, which is what he spent his his best junior GP career on. He was on a gas
Yep.
is what he was on officially. But I think
Well,
next
yeah.
year, yeah, he'll be on a KTM next year. He won a junior GP race on a as I mentioned, for Aspar. Um, I think it
Mhm.
could be a good move for him. It could be nothing against the MLive racing team. It's a good way to get into the championship, but I think it could be
Mhm.
the making of him. John McPhee went through that team, obviously not in the paddock anymore, but that's for a different reason. Um, Eddie O'Shea looks promising, I thought, coming in halfway through the season. Got some challenging rounds as well. Came in for the flyaways. So,
Yep.
yeah, I think
Yep.
there's two young ones there that look good, but I don't think there'll be another coming in for the MLive team. So, it's the issue.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's always positive for these young guys. If you then take away from him any speculation or even any doubts in other people's mind or his own mind that he's there because he's a British rider in a British team and they just need to have a British rider. You've instantly it's like the Ogura thing, you know? Instantly, there's probably a certain thing, even in his own subconscious, that goes, "No, no, someone else out here thinks I can deliver for them." They've seen me race and they think, "If we get sign this kid up, he's gonna do something for it." There's a potential there. So, I think it'll be a great move for him. Hopefully, it works out for him. And they still have a seat to fill, MLav. MLav still have a
Yeah,
seat to fill,
I don't
um,
think there
at
are
the
any
moment.
Brits that are old enough to come through. So I think there was talk it was going to be Dennis Fodger, but he's going to Aspar. There was talk that it was going to be Riccardo Rossi. He's signed for someone else. Can't remember who. I want to say Snipers now. Um, and now it looks like it'll be either Vincente Perez, who did a bit with the team mid-season, or the other name I'd heard was
Mhm.
Xabi Zuratuza, who was with Tech 3 last year, IO? Can't
Ah,
remember
okay,
which side
okay.
he was in,
I
but
believe so, yep. It might have been was it IO?
it might have been IO, yeah, thinking about it.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter
Yeah, because
anyway.
Ralston and
Yeah.
Holgado were Tech 3, so yeah, it was IO.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll
Um,
see.
there's so we'll have to wait another year or so for a Brit to get on. There is a is there in the junior GP, is there a young British lad in there and potentially an Irishman as well, I wanna say?
That's Casey
I don't know
O'Gorman's the
how old they
Irishman.
are.
Casey the Year, I think. So I
Okay.
think he'll come through
'Cause I think he had
soon,
a d I
and
mean, I don't watch it, but I think I've seen the
yeah, let me get it
standings
up.
and I just had a quick scan. It looked like he had a decent season.
Yeah, Casey's always sort of been there or thereabouts. I know he looked at trying to come to British Supersport at one point. He didn't stay full time, but he finished ninth in junior DP. Can't fault it when you're against everyone
Mm.
above him was either Italian or Spanish, apart from Cormac Buchanan, who is from New Zealand, I do believe. So
Yeah, the
the
Kiwi, and
season's not
he's got
over.
a ride for next season in Moto3.
He does. That's
Oh, it's
very
not over.
interesting to me.
Right. Yeah. You know what? If he's any good, very happy to adopt him as an Aussie, as we like to do in Australia. We just nick 'em. "Oh, you're talented, you must be one of us. You couldn't be one of them."
Mhm.
Alright, so yeah, there's potential there for a couple of talents to come through. Potential.
We'll
Um,
see.
I'm just looking through the because they have released now the list, the provisional start list for
provisional.
next season. I think it was even just this morning, yeah. Leopard has a seat to fill in Moto3. That's an interesting one. Um,
I think
because
a lot
that's
of
quite a
them,
sought after seat, I would have thought.
they're waiting, from what I understand, uh, MLev and Leopard are probably waiting for Junior GP to finish. Can't
Okay.
remember when it finishes, but soon, because if you are, I'm trying to remember, they've changed the rules so many times now with age limit and coming in. I think now, if you are 17 and you finished in the top 3 of Junior GP or Red Bull Rookies, but Red Bull Rookies is over, so I don't know if that matters anymore. If you're top 3 of Junior GP, you can come into Moto3 at the age of 17, whereas otherwise you have to wait till you're 18. So I think there's a lot of
Mhm.
people waiting around for Junior GP to finish before announcing anything. So I think that's where the two
Right.
empty Hondas are. Yeah.
It's like who qualifies for us to sign them, right?
Mm.
Okay. And what else was on your list there, Luke?
Well, we just spoke about a Kiwi, so I'll stick with that sort of direction. Simon Crafer, race director for next year, is the other thing that sort of came up on my mind. It's getting rid of Freddie Spencer at long last.
Mhm. Now
I
there's always been a lot of criticism for Freddie, hasn't there?
mm, but I think a lot of that has come from the media. I'll hold my hands up. I've probably said some things about him as well, but it's because they've not been very transparent with why they've made decisions. They'll just make it, and then that'll be it. They won't speak to the media. They won't release a press
Mm.
release of, we made this decision because of X, Y, and Z. It would just be, we've made this decision. That's it. But I feel like Simon, he's been in the media for, I don't know how many years now, but he's been with the MotoGP Dawn of
Yeah, it's been
broadcast for
quite
a
a
while
while.
now. Um, I think he understands. He's a newer, obviously he retired a while ago now, but he's a more recent rider than Freddie Spencer. He's ridden a MotoGP bike. He got to ride the Ducati, the Aprilia, and the KTM. I want to say he's ridden in recent years. Um, so he understands how the bike works. He understands, where the riders are positioned on the bikes, compared to someone like Freddie Spencer. Uh, but I feel like he also understands the media. He understands that, and the other side, he understands that the people watching want to know why you've given Marc Marquez a 5-second time penalty. I feel like he will come out and be like, well, we've given him that for X, Y, and Z, or we've given Fabio this penalty because his levers came undone. Like, it's just stuff like that where I feel like, because Marc Marquez throughout the season, at one point, his levers came undone. It was at Thailand after his crash. And people saw it on the onboard, and everyone questioned it. I think it was my colleagues at Crash.net actually approached. Um, I can't remember who they approached, but it was the governing bodies. They approached him and asked why wasn't there a penalty, and it took someone to approach them for them to be forthcoming about why they didn't enforce a rule that they've enforced in the past. So hopefully that is all fixed, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it should be a new era for the race direction, and I don't think he'll be afraid to make big calls either. I think he will, especially with like the dawdling in Moto3, I think he will be strict but fair, I think, as a race director.
Yeah. Looking at it from just from the outside now, what you know about Simon Crafer from the way he speaks and, the things he talks about and stuff like that. It does feel to me like it's probably gonna be a positive, uh, over what we're seeing at the moment. Again, you don't know what someone's gonna be like in these positions because when the decision is actually there to be made on the spot and at the time, it can be more difficult than it seems from
Mm.
the outside. Um, but at the very, very least, like you said, even if there is some controversial decisions, he'll be like, "This is why we did it. This is why I did it. I had to make a call. This is what happened. We had precedents, but this happened," or whatever it is. Uh, it's just mad that we went through that period of huge inconsistency with my mind always goes back. I mean, you mentioned the leathers thing. Strange one. Strange one. Because either the leathers are unzipped or they're not. That's black and white for me. Um, so you can't really like, oh, it's Mark, and it was only a little bit or whatever. I don't even know. I actually don't even know what they said about. I'm sure you know, but I have no idea. Um, but the ones that get me where we went through a period there where there was like super cracked down on like aggressive moves for like a few races, and then it was like now we just let stuff go, all within like the same season. And it's like they were just like reacting to like they're like, oh, we want the race to be a bit, less aggressive. Maybe there was a big accident or something. So they really, the one where it was the drop one position for a pass on, I want to say Banyaya and
Miller, I want to say
Miller.
that. Haref.
Yeah, it just set him up, no contact, drop one position. It's like
He
right, okay. And then like there's criticism of that. So then a few races later, there's hard moves, and they're like, "Well, you didn't like it when we penalised." Well, hang on. Surely at the start of the season, you sit down with a set of guidelines. This is how it gets adjudicated, and then that's it. Because if you change that mid-season, even if it's right or wrong, if you change that mid-season, the way it's and I get frustrated with this watching football and all sports really, because a lot of different sports do it. A lot of organizations will do it. Um, See it in the Premier League, they're like 1 week they'll be cracking down on this, and then the next week they'll let it go because they're like, "Well, there was criticism, so we need to start cracking down on it." It's like, so they did that as well. It's like, well, once you've set your guidelines, think about them, how they're going to be received, and how fair they actually are. Adjudicate that way throughout the season, so the riders know where they stand. Because then later in the season, you've got guys getting sat up, and they're like, "Well, hang on, I've just been sat up there. I've come third. I could have come second, but you didn't ask him to drop position early in the season. You asked what's his face to drop position for that. It's like, well, I think the best thing you can do is just set his guidelines out. Really sit down with the people who are involved. Be like, this is what the way we want the racing to be. This is what we want to be considered a penalty or too aggressive, and this is what we want to let go. Take into account what it does to the quality of the spectacle, take into account what it has for the safety of the riders. Weigh those 2 things up. Decide what you're gonna allow and what you're not, and I know it's not like there's just a set it's not a video game. There's not a set amount of animations that can happen. There's like, "Oh, in that instance, do this. In that instance, do that." It's all very new each time it happens, so you've gotta make the call, but get things in the categories as much as you can, and then make your decision based on that. I think that's the best thing you can do. And I think he is a smart enough guy, he's switched on enough, and he knows enough about what's going on that he'll be able to do. I think, watching it now. We don't know how it's going to actually turn out, but I think from that perspective, he's absolutely, hopefully, going to do a good job.
already been influential. He spoke about it during the test. He isn't the reason it's banned, but he sort of pushed for it. They're now making the screens on the front of the bikes shatterproof, and he's heavily pushed for that because I think he said in the 90s or the 80s there was a champion that lost their life from a screen on the front of the bike breaking, and then ended up harming them and caused their death in the end. So he's heavily, helped push for that, and now that's coming into place because
Mm.
there are certain road bikes nowadays that have to have shatterproof front screens. So I think that's another, he's coming. He said he wasn't the reason it's happened, but he's coming already and he's pushed for this. So, and he's only on a media point of view.
Mm.
So I feel like uh, if he's done that from being on the media point of view already, then I feel like he'll be just fine. I think he'll do a good job.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And that's a good, actually, it's something I hadn't thought about is his impact on sort of regulation as well as just adjudicating incidents. So, and that you would think is an obvious one, isn't it? At the very pinnacle of the sport, there's something that you can fix, I would suggest pretty easily, and just do it. Like, just do it.
They exist, so I don't know
Uh,
why.
yeah,
Because
they should.
Aldeguer
Yeah,
put
it
his
just makes sense that
in
they're mandatory.
in the test, Aldeguer did a practice start and he got it wrong, and his head went through the screen. And it's like, and that's what brought Simon up to say, like, um, that yeah, that's gonna change next year. I think he said next year. And it's like,
Yeah,
and you see that, and they're like, that's so simple. Why? Because you see people complaining online of people smashing the screens when they won, and they're kind of, sometimes I like that. But in crashes, and you see them break, and it's like, yeah, actually, I
yeah,
see why he's gone for that.
yeah, yeah. Do we need to talk about the test?
Only the rookies, I suppose. They're the main
Yeah. I mean,
mark in big red. That's the
yeah. I mean, I do absolutely love the postseason test. I don't care about the times. I like, it's always fun to see the bikes, the guys on their new bikes. Some of them come up with great, liveries and stuff. Mark's one is just, it's so red. It is. I. They could have just made it like Ducati red all over, no branding. They're like, nah, fuck it, just make it neon. You know.
yes.
So that was cool, and I did like, the white Banyaya Ducati was great.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's all about like the liveries and the vibes, isn't it? The postseason test. It's just the vibes.
Yeah.
Couldn't care less about the times. Sometimes, look, maybe you can read into it to a degree if guys really did struggle or whatever. But generally, I think that's by the time you get to the next test, it wouldn't even like means nothing. Nothing.
Honda
Um,
didn't even bring a prototype bike, so
yeah.
they just brought
So
new
what are we
parts.
learning really? It's
Yeah.
really just guys getting a run on the new bike just to have stretch the legs and see what it feels like, get a general idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess you can look at the rookies because they're probably trying to get times. They're just sitting out there to sort of just do your laps, right? Like, how much feedback are they going to be really giving? It's the guys on the proper programs, the factory guys that are really giving the direction, you know. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I do love the faces, and when you see a lot of like, you see like people put pictures of like it always comes up on like Twitter and Instagram and stuff where it's like people, oh, it's the postseason. Here's some pictures of like the old postseason test from like 20 years ago. It's like, oh, they look cool. Everything looks cool. Um, the carbon looks great. But yeah. So I mean, did you have any? How many more topics do you have on your list?
Oh, I just had Barcelona test and then a question mark and then MotoGP rookies because I just wanted to say from watching Ayagura in the test, I thought his style looked good. I've looked at a lot of pictures of him since as
Yeah.
well, and I thought his style on the Aprilia just looked. And I've always thought it's about because I like Ayagura as a rider. I'm glad he won the title finally,
Mm,
but
mm.
I think he'll go well on a big bike, and I feel like the Aprilia is definitely a better choice than the Honda. So it's the other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, is it one of those ones where with Agura, if he'd have just done what Honda was basically wanted to happen 2 years ago
Yeah,
and go up as not a world champion after having possibly thrown a world championship away, you know, go up to a Honda that was just, it's like running around in like 17th all the time. Would his MotoGP career almost already be over? I know
yeah,
probably not because Honda's going to be like, you're Japanese, stay on the bike. But generally, in terms of his, unless a Honda comes good, no other team's ever going to really take him after the Honda decide to move him on, which could have maybe let's just say it's an extra 2 years down the road or whatever. Like with Taka, you just stayed forever. But no one's going to go, well, when they decide to replace Agura, we could use him. No one's doing that.
yeah. It would have
Like his
been.
career could genuinely be in the bin
mm,
already.
Yeah, it would have been wasted potential. Is the thing with Agura and with Chantra. I feel a lot of people don't like the idea of Chantra coming up to that LCR Honda squad. I think it's the best move. Taka was eh, not great in Moto 2 when they brought him up, but he did all right for the team. He did what they needed him to do. And I feel like Chantra is going to be another rider that does what they want him to do. He will test parts. Um, he will be out on track for the longest. I think he was on the test as well. He was the most out on track of the Honda riders. But Agura has this something special that he's a Moto2 champion. He can't be, and I know a lot of Moto2 champions. like Remy and Augusto Fernandez get thrown to one side after like a year or two. So I'm glad he's getting a chance at a newer satellite team, but a solid satellite team that most likely can produce results and on a bike like an Aprilia, which will only get better and better with Martin and Bezecchi guiding its development.
Yeah, I think I agree completely. I think he's a proper talent. I think he actually is, and I think balls of steel not to take the Honda ride when they wanted him to move up. To go, no, 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 no. Don't worry, lads. I'm going to end up on a better bike than that. Don't you worry about a thing. I'll just look. I'll go be Moto2 world champion. I'll get the plum seat at Trackhouse, and it's a great team. I love Trackhouse. I say it all the time. It's the best socials and the best media
Mm.
PR shit in all of MotoGP. I wish they were all like that. Um, so it'll also build his profile a bit as well. I think being in a team like that, and he'll be way more competitive, way more competitive than he would have been at Honda, obviously. Um, so yeah, I do. I think he's shown proper. I don't know, like a real resolve and like determination to get himself on something else. Just backed himself, and you know what? The talent that comes through Moto 2, it's easy to get lost in that, you know. And for him to be like, no, 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 I'll be right. I'm better than these lot. This crop of guys here, I'm better than. I'm gonna be world champion or at least be good enough that somebody is gonna be like, we need that guy. And that's why. I mean, I've gone on about this a lot, but do you watch the TNT feed? Is that the feed you watch? Or do you watch the world feed?
How much TNT here?
The TN Yeah, I like them. They're good. Especially, I like Gavin Emmett and Sylvain. I like Guintoli. Brilliant. But the way that and don't get me wrong, I love Susie as well. She's a staple. Um, but the way that especially Susie and Hodgie went on about Joe Roberts not getting that ride. I was like, he's not as good. He's just not as good. Igura is brilliant. Igura's up here. Joe's in here somewhere. But yeah, just I've it's weird how obsessed I've been with that 1 week where TNT just went on about Joe Roberts. I can't get over it, Luke. I just can't get over it, mate.
Yeah, I think it was more the shock factor that that Joe was this American,
Possibly.
the American team, the American dream as such as well, that he was going to be this man that joined Aprilia, joined their American team, boosted the American Grand Prix to bring more people in. But would it? Would the Americans
No.
really care that much about
Do they care if he's not very like, if he's running around at the back, do they give a shit? Probably
Americans
not.
love a champion. That's the they
Don't we all?
well yeah, they're
Well,
they're
not the
always love.
Brits. You guys would just turn up for anyone.
Yeah,
You guys turn up for anyone. It's like, "Oh, yeah, there's a British guy in there? Fuck it, let's go.
yes,
Spend my hard earned."
it's true. Yeah. But the thing with them, the Americans, I watch a
I
lot of
like that
NFL.
about
They
yous.
love it. The
Yeah.
Americans love a champion. They will back their competitors if they are winning and if they're fighting. Nicky Hayden, he's
Mm.
still loved by the bike racing fans in America. Um, Colin Edwards, he's still loved in America by the bike racing fans, and we're looking back.
Rightfully so. Absolute bloody legends.
Yeah, they're both brilliant, but they've not had that sort of. I'm trying to think in world championship level. Obviously, there might be Moto America stars that I'm, looking over like Cameron Bobia. I guess they all seem to like he had a
Yeah.
stint in Moto2, but I don't think since then they've really had much to shout about in world championship. Um, I don't know. Thinking about it differently, I don't know if Logan Sargent brought in any more for the American Grand Prix in F1. I didn't really look into the.
I can't imagine it would have made that much. Like, we'll know when they go to Vegas now if like the numbers the same. Without him there, probably. Like, do they give a shit if like the thing is with Americans and things like that? especially in Formula One, and we almost saw it in MotoGP where it's like a guy got in almost because he was American and we need one or whatever. Um, it's not something it's not a luxury that a lot of countries get, if that makes sense. So I know that the similar thing happens with the Brits, not in Formula One because there's so many good drivers that they're just in there on talent. Like they're so good at it, it's in the culture. But with the bikes, there's always talk. Dixon can Dorna get him up there just so that we've got someone in there. I mean, fair play to the Brits, they'll turn out anyway, whether he's in there or not. Like, I mean, the crowd numbers haven't been amazing, but for Silverstone, but people still follow it. Uh, but with like, for example, with Australia, no Australian's ever getting in there because he's Australian. I don't think so anyway. Like, you've got to be fucking good. Like, you've got to be like to get in Moto 3 and stay there as an Australian, you've got to be really good. They don't get many second chances, because you can't bring the money in. It's like when you look over at Formula One and that Guang Yu Zhou is in there because he's Chinese, Stroll's in there because his dad pays, Sargent's in there because he's American or whatever, and someone wants an American in there so they can give their sponsorship money to that team. You know, no one's doing that for Aussies. Most of the time, no one's doing that probably for the Brits either. You know, it's just you don't get that. So the idea of a sponsor being like, well, you get it with Perez in Formula One as well. Like the Mexican sponsorship money is massive. It's massive. Someone's willing to pay a lot of money for that guy to stay there. So I don't know if, it wouldn't make a difference for me. Like if there's no Australia, if Miller goes and there's no Australian in MotoGP, I'm still turning up. I'm still turning up, no matter what. So, but again, you're talking to the diehards here, so maybe it's different. Maybe the casuals love it. Oh, I'll only go if there's a British guy riding. I'll only go to Silverstone if Jake Dixon's running in 18th in MotoGP. Otherwise, I'm not going. Or if Joe Roberts is running around at Kota in 20th position, I'll turn up because I want to see an American. Like, is anyone actually doing that? I don't think so. I mean, maybe they are. Get in the comments if you're one of those people. Get in the comments. I only turn up if they've got a local guy to cheer on. I mean, I was going to mention the Southeast Asians for that, the Indonesians and the Thai and that, but they turn up anyway.
They love
It
it.
will be a massive boost having Chantra in there, but they're all about it. These are proper
Yeah.
bike people.
The
These are
the
proper
Thai
bike
Grand
people.
Prix at the start of next season is going to be mental. Chantra could finish
Oh, it's gonna be
dead
awesome.
last, 10 seconds off, like, the next bike in front of him, and they would go mental when he crossed that line, and I can't wait to watch it because I feel like for that Grand Prix, I'm gonna be a diehard Chandra fan just because I feel like they're gonna go absolutely mental for him.
No, I love this all the Southeast Asian countries for just like they just fucking love bikes. They're all about it. Like, has it got 2 wheels? Yes, sweet. I'll go watch it. Awesome. No, I do love that. I really do want to go to a Thai Grand Prix. Would be great. Even Malaysia. Malaysia's a good one because it's like I was about to say historic. It's like it's not that old, but it kind of is now because there's so many new Grand Prix and stuff around. It is one of the great old, like, classic races almost now, isn't it? Been around since what? Early 2000s?
A
I
long
suppose with that
time.
circuit. When did that circuit get built? Been around a long time
While.
now. It's one of the proper old ones, yeah. Um,
Longer
but
than I
yeah.
can remember, so
Uh, oh, you're only a young man, Luke. I've been around for all that. There's grey hairs in my beard. Look at that. Depressing. I've almost covered off all my topics.
yeah,
I
I
have a
think
couple more, but we'd be going back to Moto 3 because I wanted to mention David Alonso.
yeah.
How good is he? How good's he gonna be? Is he gonna be one of those straight in, dominate Moto 2? It's a bigger step than it used to be, the old
Mm,
125 to 250. It's a bigger step now. So where before you'd get guys just like it's just a seamless transition into the 250 because it's kind of the same but bigger. The step now is like you're on a big bike. You're one of the big
mm.
boys. Take the nappy off. Get out there. you're off the kid's bike now. But is
Um,
he how good? Like, was it a weak field, Moto 3?
I don't think there's a weak field. I think there are a lot of talented youngsters in there. Colin Vire, I rate him highly. I think he was,
I really like Via.
yeah, I
I
think
really like him.
he's one that I think will go well in Moto2 as well. But I don't think there's a weak
Agreed.
field. I think it was more David Alonso is just that step above. He is that sort of Pedro Acosta-esque person. He's got the talent on track, but he has the personality as well, and that, I think, is why so many people love him. Like what he did at the Solidarity
Mm,
Grand Prix at the end of the season. Won the race. Was that his 14th Grand Prix win, I think, of the season? And then put on
yeah.
I can't even remember what they call now, graduate. Put on the graduate hat and held up his certificate. It was,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
it was.
He's got
He
a bit of
got
character.
the,
Yeah, the mini bike in Japan,
yeah, his first bike, yeah.
all that sort of stuff, yeah.
The
Yeah.
unicycle as well, was that Mazzano?
So
He
oh,
had a
yeah.
uni yeah.
He's just like a little Rossi, isn't he?
He's
Just
so
these little tricks
funny.
after he's just like, "I know I'm gonna win, so I'll plan something out."
Yeah, he had
It's mad. It's
he
mad
gave his whole
confidence
team
as
pole
well.
position watches, like, throughout the season because he won so many. So, yeah, I think he'll do well. He's staying in the
It's
same
crazy.
team, same
Yeah.
family. He'll be
Yeah.
a lot of people have said he'll go up and he'll fight for the title, he'll fight for top 6 in championship. I don't want that next season from him. I want just steady learning. I don't want him to go in and I
Mm.
don't think he will because he doesn't seem like this kind of person. I don't think he's gonna go in and be like, "I'm the best. I'm gonna win this first season," and then chuck it down the road every week like we see some rookies do in Moto2. Issam Guevara, I think, is a good
Yeah.
talking point for him
Yeah.
for doing that. Went in, chucked it down the road, finished 24th, 25th, made tiny progression every weekend. I feel like David is more of a he may not seem it when he when he speaks in the media, but I feel like he's more of a thinking man's rider. I feel like he'll
Mm.
sort of
His
diagnose
head's screwed
problems
on
every
right,
week
isn't
and
it?
get there. Yeah. And he's got good people. He's in the Aspar team. So
He, yeah. Yeah. He, he feels to me like you said, I don't know if it is even possible anymore for a kid, even you can be like we've just seen the best Moto3 rider of all time, basically. If you're the best Moto3 rider of all time, is it even possible to go up straight up to Moto2 and dominate? Like, I don't know if you can do it really anymore like you maybe could in the past. Maybe you can. But once guys have been in, especially now, the Moto2 scene is very like it's not just all up and comers, is it? It's hard and professionals in there. You're looking at like your Canets and yeah, even you're looking at like Viettis and Dixons and things
Lopez,
like that.
Dixon,
These
yeah.
guys are like quick and they're pros and they've been there and they've done that. And you've got to come in first year, big bike, first time on the big bike, because it's not, it's, it is a massive step, I think. Because what is it, a 760cc or some shit now? It's almost 1,000. It's almost going to be
765,
MotoGP
yeah.
capacity. I know different, you know, but it's a massive it's a big bike. It's not like they're not even going up to it used to be a 600, didn't it? Like, even then, it was like, we're going from a 250 to a 600,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever. They're big, proper big bikes.
Yeah.
So, I
Man.
don't know if it's even possible to do it. Maybe it is. Maybe if you're that you'd have to be but you'd have to imagine a young Mark could maybe do it,
I mean,
but that's it. But then again, is Alonso on that level?
hmm. I mean, there are recent riders who've struggled. I think Jaume Masia, he struggled. Ayumi Sasaki, he's struggled. Dennis Foggia's
Yeah.
going back to Moto3. Um,
Yeah, that's
so
a crazy one.
there's just there are ones that
And
have made it,
you mentioned
but
Guevara. Guevara looked as good as anyone going up. He was awesome in Moto3. And he started to find something in the last few races there, didn't he? I mean, he got handed a podium from Jake,
Mhm.
but he was there on the day. He was good.
Yeah,
He looks like he could maybe get it together now. I mean, Garcia's been a good one because if we forget his second half of the season, one season to learn, then he's been competitive when he got there. He arrived at the start of his second season. He was like, "I'm all right." Was he second or third season? Second
second,
season, I think.
second. Yeah.
Yeah. So um, to go there first season, no one seems to be able to do it. Pedro was good. Pedro was quite good, but I think that's about as good as you could possibly be. Maybe.
He break his leg in his first season in Moto2. He broke
Yeah,
something.
and he still won a couple of races.
Yeah,
So you have to think without the injury, maybe he could have won 3 or 4 and been right up there in the championship. But that I think is as good as you could possibly like, could Alonso do that? A Pedro-like first season?
I think so. I think he's as talented. I think there's
Yeah.
obviously he took longer in the junior classes, but at the time I was worried
Yep.
that Acosta was being pushed into Moto2 too soon, even though he was champion in Moto3. I thought it was maybe
Mm,
not a one-hit wonder. I think a lot of people thought that at the time, that maybe he was gonna be a one-season wonder in Moto3, get put in Moto2, and then fall apart. But I feel like we saw that a little bit in MotoGP this year as well with Acosta. I realised
mm.
we didn't speak about him for during this at all in his MotoGP rookie season. But
Yeah,
he put together great races, and then he put together truly bad races where he was in great positions and he'd get greedy. It seemed like he'd be
mm,
0.2 seconds behind Bagnaia. I think Japan's the perfect example. Really close to the back of, I think it was Bagnaia in front of him, and just chucked it down the road for seemingly no reason.
mm,
And
yeah.
I think a lot of people have got mixed opinions on how his rookie season's gone. I'm impressed, but then at the same time, there's still a lot that he has to learn. But that's the point of being a
Well, look,
rookie in championships.
for me for me, it's been a successful first season for him
Mm,
because you mentioned those moments was like, well, he could have done better in those times. Yeah, but yeah, he could have done better. But he's also did he end up finishing ahead of Binder in the championship? No,
no.
he's missed him by 2 points. So, in that sense, he's gone up against an established factory rider in a satellite team, almost beat him, and left points on the table where he easily could have just banked a handful of points. You really should have beaten him. So it's like the criticism is like he wasn't too good. He was just really good. Like I'm like, yeah, that's pretty damn good. I think that's pretty awesome. And like I always rated Binder, and you go remember Binder coming through the junior classes was a bit of a phenom. So you've got a top level rider there as well. Now I think you'll beat him next season, but yeah, Pedro's an interesting case. I think he'll be really strong next season. I think he's a rare talent, same as Alonso. I think with Alonso, I think you will see a guy possibly race winner next season in Moto 2. I think he'll win one or two races. So
Towards the latter end, I think, yeah.
I think he's just genuine. He just the guy just knows how to ride a motorbike. He's just quick on a motorbike. You
Mm.
put him on any two wheels, he's probably going to be quick. Obviously, we don't know for sure, but I think it's a good chance. Uh, there was one other interesting thing. I don't know if this is right or not. Just a little thing I thought I'd bring up. Piqueras has gone to MT helmets. I want to say. Well, I'm right in saying that it was at Leopard, wasn't he? To get him, Leopard paid out a contract with someone.
No. Yeah. No. Empty helmets paid out Leopard. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, okay. I was like, what? They've paid out a contract to get him for 1 year and then move him on before he's
No.
no, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
That
Leopard
makes much
signed
more sense.
him. I don't know if they signed him on a 1 year with an option or a 2 year deal, but MT Helmets,
Yep.
and I think Piqueras a little bit involved as well, wanted to break that contract because his junior GP career was on a KTM. He wanted to go back to a KTM. He didn't do bad
Yep.
on a Honda, but I think he just thinks he can do better on a
Right.
KTM. Is the way he's at.
Yep. That's fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's a good team, MT helmets. They've proven to be a good team across both categories. world champions, as it were.
Rookie
Uh,
season of Moto2,
Anything
world
else you wanted
champions,
to
yeah.
cover, Luke?
I think we've covered everything that I can think of. I don't think there's anything else that's in my mind at the moment
I mean, we
from
never
this
really
season.
covered that Grand Prix. We never actually covered the Grand Prix, the last round, but is
It
what it
was
was, wasn't it?
it was a standard
Martin
race,
did what everyone said he was going to do,
and Pecco
opposite
did
what
what he
field or
needed to.
whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Should he have dropped back and tried to rough him up?
No, I don't think it would have worked. I think with Mark behind you, and then you've got Aleix behind Martin, I don't think that tactic would have worked. So you would have dropped back, Mark would have in turn roughed you up as well, and Aleix would have then in turn roughed Pecco up. So there's the chance that Pecco gets pushed off track at turn 1 or turn wherever, somewhere along the course trying to rough people up. And then he's lost the championship anyway, so you might as well just do what you can and hope that behind you people can do the same. One thing I did like, well, maybe I sort of liked reporting on because it was funny, I thought. Bastianini's comments about Espargaro, I thought they were quite interesting after the race, saying that it was wrong what Espargaro did. He's not his teammate. And then Espargaro clapped back with a response of, "You finished the race in 7th. You were 10 seconds behind me. Why are you, why are you commenting on this?"
It's a good point. Once Bastianini got roughed up in that, he got beat up a little bit. He just never recovered.
It was a bit like Lorenzo.
And yeah,
Just,
if you were there all the way through the race and he was just I don't want to go there, but Mark Marquez 2015 in you at Sepang, then you'd be like, well, come on, mate. Why are you even in this fight? Which is what I thought at the time. But jump in the comments, everyone. Get heated. Yell at each other. Sepang 2015. Maybe I will do a video on that one day and just for the views. I don't really want to do it. I really wouldn't want to do it, but you got to grow the channel, don't you? Go viral.
stay away from it. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, no, yeah, probably won't touch it. Okay, MotoGP's done. We'll go. We will. The next test won't be till next year now, won't it?
I think there's a Jerez test next week, but I think Honda are the only ones going to that. So
Like concession test
I think it's a
when you
World
get more
Superbike
hours in the track,
test. Yeah, it's a World Superbike
right?
test, but Honda are going to be there, I think. So
Yeah, using up their allocated hours, extra
yeah,
hours.
yeah. There's talk they're going to bring their prototype bike to that test, so that could be interesting to
Well,
see if they
Mir,
do.
I've seen some Mir comments from after this test, and he's doesn't sound happy.
Yeah,
Does not sound happy.
I have a. Oh, it's not on my homepage anymore. I have a headline on Bike Sport News, which I liked from Mia. It was a thing of where has it gone? It was a thing of, "I'm not happy. We did not improve at all." Was the yeah, that's
Well, it doesn't get better than that. Just
no,
you can't get more direct than that.
no. But then you listen to
Well,
Marini, which confused me because Marini said we have improved, but Mia said we haven't improved. So I don't know if Honda know where they're at the
oh,
moment either.
Mir's just a bit of a Mir's just it's just a bit of a like a depressing guy. Maybe it's just a negative guy. It's just like
A diva?
nothing's great. I can't finish a race. A diva's a good shout. Yeah,
Mm.
that world title's gone to his head.
Yeah, he's not been
Well,
the
me, you're not
same
that good,
since.
mate. He's just bitter about Suzuki. If they never left, he could be a world champion again.
Yeah,
You don't know.
something it's been something that I've seen debated a lot on social media because I did a post with Bike Sport News about, I think it was a throwback or on this day, this anniversary of Mia's title or whatever, and the comments were a lot it seemed pretty evenly split of deserved world champion, would have won more if Suzuki had stayed, and the split of didn't deserve it, why is he world champion? You know, most undeserved world champion ever in the history of MotoGP. It's like, but he's not. He was there. He got the results when he needed. A bit like Martin this year. He got the results when he needed to.
Yeah,
Didn't win a lot. A bit like Nicky Hayden, like we said earlier. Got the results,
yeah,
won the title. It's he's a world champion.
yeah. It's an endorsement of consistency. Oh, I remember my favorite stat from that season was, I think, the points total for, I think it was Morbidelli came second. You would have won the championship, I think, if you just came 4th at every race.
Yeah, think so.
That would have accumulated enough points to beat the 2nd place rider
Yeah,
in that
'cause
championship,
a lot of
which is mad.
people say, "Oh, it was the COVID year. Oh, there was less races." Okay, but everyone entered the same amount of races, so you know, it's
I don't understand that because back in the day, the championship used to be like 14, 15, 16 races.
and yeah, it's like
For a long time, it was like that.
mhm.
Um, so I don't really buy into that. Um, so what, are you
I
discounting like Mick Doohan? Oh,
yeah,
he only did 15 races that year, Mick Doohan. Fuck it. Like,
yeah, I looked at it earlier because of a comment about loads of riders missed races because of COVID or that year. I looked at it in the top 14. That I'm going off on a tangent here, but I really think Mir deserved that title that year.
go ahead.
Um, in the top 14 of that championship, only one rider missed a race, and it was Rins missed the opening race because he'd broken his shoulder in preseason testing. And in the rest of the top 14, didn't miss a race. The only one below that was Rossi in 15th, who missed a few because of COVID. So
Mm,
the
yeah,
argument
yeah.
of everyone missed
You
races because
100%
COVID
know
doesn't
that's one
work.
of those ones though as well. That's absolutely one of those ones where it's like, "Oh, I've got COVID, I have to drop out of this one." They're like, "No, you don't. You don't have COVID. Test again. Test again."
Yeah.
Like when I used to go to the pub during COVID and like or you had to go to work or whatever, and you just like take one of them COVID tests. So I'm about to expose myself as a liar. Take one of them COVID tests, scan the barcode, and just say that it was positive, say that it was negative. You'd be like, "Alright, I'm off for dinner. Go on the pub." Show you I don't have COVID ID at the door. I have no idea if I had COVID or not. Sorry, everyone. I know I've killed your grandma or whatever. Sorry. But, that's 100% what they were doing. Like, did you test him?" "Yeah, yeah, he was fine, he was fine." Go on, jump out on that bike, mate. You look fine. Like, if you're going for the title, there's always the cyclists are still doing it. The cyclists, Tour de France and stuff, like, still dropping out for COVID. I'm like, "What are you doing? Win the event. You could be Tour de France champion. You're dropping out for COVID." Yeah. Anyway, we've definitely gone off on tangents here. Tell you what. Right, let's wrap up our review there, and we're gonna get into the next one's gonna be our prediction results, which
And
is always a fun one.
I don't
Okay.
have my
Well, we'll
predictions
see you
anymore,
on
so
that one, Luke. Alright, well, I've got them here.
good because I've lost mine.
I've got them here. Alright, we'll see you on that one, Luke, so take it easy.
Yeah, thank you very much.